Hello, and welcome back to Fallout 76. Today we are going to have a look at Elder's Mark, a new named weapon from the Season 13 update. Elder's Mark is a legendary submachine gun. The primary effect, plus 5% damage after each consecutive hit on the same target up to 45%. Another way to say that is furious. 25% weapon speed, which is faster fire rate, and 15% faster reload speed. In addition to those effects that you see, it's also a cursed weapon, which means it has lower durability, increased fire rate, and increased damage. So here I have an anti-armor submachine gun that does have faster fire rate as well. And if you'll notice, the damage on that is 54 and the fire rate is 107. And if you compare that to Elder's Mark, and they are modded exactly the same, the damage is 62, so it's about 15% more base damage, at least with the hardened receiver, and the fire rate is 132, so it's significantly faster. So it's basically it has double faster fire rate. Now, one more thing about this. We are on the weapon bench. I do have this modded for the lowest possible AP cost, and I think that's such a great addition with this update, being able to see the AP cost on weapons. Now, another option would have been to go with an armor-piercing receiver, but the AP cost goes from 9 to 12, and so I just decided to go this way. I mean, you could go the other way if you want, but this is what I wanted to do with this particular test, was to be able to have the lowest possible AP cost. But one thing that doesn't show up, at least it hasn't in the past, on named weapons, you can actually re-roll this. I actually did try this. I went to a custom world because I didn't want to destroy this weapon the way it is. I wanted to be able to test it as it drops. But you can actually re-roll this. You keep the cursed effects, so you keep the additional damage, you keep the additional fire rate, but the 3 legendary effects, you can actually re-roll them with something else. So this weapon, I think, actually has a lot of potential, and I wish they would go back and do this with, like, the Nuka World on Tour weapons. I like a lot of the special effects that they have, but not necessarily the primary legendary effects. So having the option to re-roll those would be really nice. That's not something that you can do, though. I did check that. I was hoping that they would go back and update those weapons, but that hasn't happened yet. Fingers crossed that it happens sometime in the future. But really, out of all of these effects, I mean, I would not have any issue replacing all of them. The weapon speed, with the hidden fire rate bonus, you really don't need the additional fire rate. I would rather have something like VATS hit chance or critical hit damage. Faster reload speed is another one of those that it actually has a pretty quick reload already. So having something like reduced AP cost, I would rather have that. And Furious, that's not my favorite effect. There's quite a few others I'd rather have. Aristocrats, anti-armor, stuff like that. But as it is, that's how we're going to test it. Now, I really do like submachine guns just in general. I think they sound really cool. And the extra ammo capacity, now I have the medium quick eject mag, and it still holds 50 rounds. The big weakness of these weapons is the range. It is only 90, which is about half of what you would get with, say, a handmade or a fixer. So these really are close-up weapons. You can see, even at a body shot, my hit chance isn't that high for that guy, so we are only going to use this as a close-up weapon, not as a sniper weapon. Now, one thing I have found when I was testing this is that because the fire rate is so fast, a lot of times it wasn't registering, or it was registering, but it was delayed. And so what I've been doing is I've been firing, rather than just kind of sustained fire, I'm just doing bursts, so the server can actually catch up. Because I find what would happen is I'd shoot a little bit, and then it would take a second, and then the health bar would go away. So, but as you can see, as a close-up weapon in stealth, this thing is very lethal. And that fire rate is just super ridiculous. It's so fast, though. I mean, I think having faster fire rate and having this as a quad would be kind of fun. It'd be like a close-range minigun that shoots 45 instead of 5mm. But as you can see, this thing just, yep, it's great. This would really excel, I think, as for close-up for like mobs and stuff. So if you've got a lot of enemies, you know, like ghouls or just a lot, or scorched, you know, you're just surrounded by a lot of enemies. It has a decent ammo capacity. It's going to kill low-level enemies really easily, and you're not going to have to reload it all that often. So yeah, I really like this weapon. I think it's a lot of fun. But as much as I like it, I think I would like to try re-rolling it. I'm not going to do that in the video, but I would like to try and re-roll this so I have something that's got more rolls, or rolls that I would like a little better. I mean, I do like the fast fire rate. I think it really does sound cool, but it's a little, I mean, I'm on a private server, so I'm not getting as much lag as I would necessarily get on a public one. On a public one, every single enemy Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much every single enemy that I shot at, there was a little bit of a delay because the fire rate is just so fast. And it also makes me wonder if the Furious effect is getting the full benefit. You know, if the server's actually calculating fast enough that I'm getting the extra 5%. But on a weapon that has relatively low base damage, an extra 5% isn't significant anyway. Now against tougher enemies, something like a Mirelurk King or Mirelurk Queen, something like that, probably would rather have the armor piercing receiver rather than the hardened receiver. I mean, that one's only level 60 and they're not that tough, but the armor piercing receiver on this gives 60% armor penetration, which is a fairly significant amount. So against a heavily armored enemy, especially when you have something that has lower base damage like this, let's see, am I hidden? Probably not, but we're still doing all right. I haven't actually had a chance to test this against Mirelurk, a Mirelurk Queen yet, so I'm curious to see how it's going to do. Now, this is where the range comes into issue. We really would like her to come over closer to us because we do see damage drop off with the range as well as accuracy penalty. But yeah, that's but you can see right there, I ran out of AP before the mag was empty. So having something that had reduced AP costs would be nice. Then I think you could go through the whole magazine without having to reload. And of course, if you have, you know, if you're playing a low health character where your AP is a lot higher, you could probably do that anyway. But she went down fairly easily. Now, for shooting a Scorch Beast out of this guy, this wouldn't be my first choice. You can see, actually, as a manual aim weapon, this is actually pretty good. They're fairly stable. They don't tend to bounce around a lot. I mean, there's a little bit, but if I'm missing, it's not because of the gun. It's because of my aim. But obviously, robots decided they wanted to make sure that, or something, I'm not sure what that is. Whoops, fallen in a ditch. Yeah, for this kind of engagement where enemies are really spread out and they're not super close, this is not the best weapon to choose. Just, oh, and lag, and server lag, yep. All right, now we have one landing on top of me, but I am... That fire rate is crazy, though. I love it. But yeah, this would not be my first choice of a weapon to fight a Scorch Beast with, but we got the job done. So I would say if you use this regularly against, you know, generally against lower defense enemies, you know, common enemies rather, then probably the hardened receiver is the way to go. But if you're using, yeah, if you fight a lot of heavily armored enemies, although this is actually, no, hardened receiver does all right. Okay. So with stealth, yeah, this weapon does really well. I like it a lot. So I really like this weapon as it is, but I like it even more for the potential that it has. I think with the right rolls, this could actually be a beast of a weapon for close-up encounters. I mean, when you have the 50 ammo capacity and it has pretty quick reloads, and if you put different legendary effects on top of it, I think this thing would do really well in pretty much any situation. It's just obviously not a very good long-range weapon. But even if this is something you don't really want to reroll or even carry around as a main weapon or even a side weapon, it does work as something to take out once in a while and just have a little bit of fun with. That fire rate alone makes it worth it. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit one of the buttons down below, and I hope you'll join me in the next one. Thank you very much.